Hello, everybody, and welcome to Creativity Time. My name is Tatiana, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in Australia. I am going to be sharing with you products that are an early release from the 2023 mini catalogue, and it is the Fitting Florets suite. And here I'm holding up the framed Florets bundle. It's a stamp set with coordinating dies. There are lots of dies in this set, and I love that you can cut out all the images as well as these ovals, which have been designed to fit for both Australian card bases as well as North American, or should I say A4 versus letter. The recording of this video was done live, but unfortunately no sound was recorded, so I am trying out this voiceover. So I hope that it works and that you get the gist of what I'm trying to communicate here. This suite, part of the early release, is this limited edition stamp set, framed and festive. It is a Christmas themed stamp set, and I just absolutely love the fonts in this set, and they coordinate with the fonts in the framed Florets stamp set too. Even though the suite isn't Christmas per se, you'll see that some of the paper can be used as Christmas for your Christmas projects, which is fantastic. And I pointed to the From Our Home to Yours sentiment because that's something that really called to me, and I love sending Christmas cards with that sentiment. So now let's take a look at the DSP, and you'll see that some of these are just absolutely perfect for Christmas. Like this one, something about those little berries and those little sprigs that really sing Christmas to me. So you've got this beautiful sheet. I'm just flicking through all of the designer series paper. Again, this one with the berries make me think it can be used easily for Christmas. This one also, again, I don't know what it is with me and berries. And with this particular sheet of DSP, you'll find that one of the dies coordinates and can cut out a particular grouping of flowers. I'm just finding it here, and there we go. There it is. So you don't have to fussy cut, though it only is limited to that particular combination. There's a few of them around that are on that sheet, so you can use that die. And now for the other side, gingham is always perfect for any neutral kind of background, as well as this beautiful pink. These pattern papers are always handy for background, and they're great for all occasions, as well as Christmas or birthdays. And this one, I have to say, is my favorite. I've already used up the whole sheet of that. So let's head into the project that I created today. I did some prep work by stamping this sentiment and then die cutting it using, just waiting for the dies to come up, there we go, the beautiful shaped dies. And now I'm taking my card front and I'm going to blend some ink, and I'll be using Starry Sky, Tahitian Tide, and Coastal Cabana. And before I like to start blending, I like to just take a little bit of masking tape and rolling it up and sticking down my piece of cardstock to my grid paper, and that way it's not rolling around and moving while I am blending. And because masking tape has that low tack, it doesn't ruin the paper. And now I'm starting the blending. I was very frustrated with the lack of sound, but anyway, let's keep going. So I've started with the Starry Sky, and it looks quite heavy. I'm not pressing that heavy, and you'll see the edges stand out a little bit more. So because of that, I will be trimming the cardstock down to cut that off. If you don't mind the edges, you can certainly keep them. And I've got to say, at this point, I was kind of freaking out, going, oh, I think I picked the wrong color. I was inspired by a picture in Pinterest with this color combination. Well, these were the colors that I can kind of think with in the Stampin' Up range. But anyway, I continued, and I think it turned out really, really well. So I'm really thrilled that I continued along. So now I've got the Tahitian Tide, and I'm blending it across and making sure I'm blending it really well into the Starry Sky. And I'm keeping the right-hand side of the cardstock kind of free or blended out. I wanted a little bit of white still going there. And now I'm moving into the Coastal Cabana. At this point, I remember thinking I didn't leave enough space for the Coastal Cabana, but it did turn out all right. So I guess a lesson learned is that you should persevere and continue your projects, and you'll never know, you may be surprised with the results. So I'm just blending that in and blending it up and into and over the other colors. It's always a good idea to start off onto your grid paper because that way the heaviest ink will be there and not on your project. And I'm just putting on the sentiments showing you where I intend to have it. So there we go. And now I'm taking the blending brush that I used Starry Sky with, and even though I didn't add any more ink, there's still some ink in the bristles, and I'm just doing that final blend across the project. And now I've picked up the Stamping Right markers, and I'm going to take the brush tip and flick some ink so that I get a bit of splattering across. And this just gives extra texture, visual texture to the project, and a little bit more interest to the blending. I love this technique. It's so easy to do, and it's pretty much why I have the Stampin' Right markers. I also like that they coordinate and so it blends, and you can write in a coordinating color inside your card. But once I pick this up, not if, but you can see that that masking tape came off. But there we go. You can see the ink splatter really works nicely on this blending background. I don't know what I'm saying here. It was very awkward to discover that I didn't have any sound going across. Ah, yes, so I am trimming down. So I'm trimming down by 1 centimeter on just two of the edges, just to keep that card base in proportion, but also to remove that harsh line that you get when you start blending across. And I didn't trim down off the Coastal Cabana edge because I really liked having more of that. And looking at the project, it feels weird that I was freaking out that there wasn't enough of it. And you can see that bit I've cut off. I'm going to keep that, and we'll be using it, should I say, later on the inside of this card. So it's not even wasted. And now I'm bringing in the frame Floret stamp set and selecting the flower bunch. This particular bunch, which is that one there, I felt is Christmassy again because of those berries. Don't ask me why. And here I'm just playing around with the potential positioning of these flowers. I do feel that they have a particular direction that they need to be in. So I was just working out where I want to. If you're hesitant about your placement, you could use the Stamparatus tool to stamp them. That way you're confident, and you could also um, double or triple stamp in the same over the same spot to get that really crisp dark black imaging. Or you could use Versamark and black embossing powder, which I did consider at this point in the video. However, I decided that I'll keep it simple by using the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And I've placed my Stampin' Pierce mat underneath just so that I get a crisper, sharper image. Being a photopolymer stamp set, it sometimes needs that little bit of soft padding underneath to get a perfect print. See, here I'm working out that I will want the first stamp placed right there in the corner, and that's the shape of those flowers are just perfect for that corner position. And if you're always hesitant, not always hesitant, but if you are hesitant, always stamp on your grid paper or a bit of scrap paper first just to see how you like it. So that's what I've done, and I'm really pleased with the imprint. So I'm now confident and happy to go on to my project. And there, I'm so thrilled. I was so excited. It is turning out better than I had anticipated and expected. So that was always a pleasant thing to happen. So now I'm just going to continue stamping that same image across the blended background, um, having it more heavily at the top left-hand corner, across the top, and then going down with less of the image showing. So I do hold it up to the camera quite a few times just because I am quite excited about how pretty it's looking. I remember discussing at this point that this particular stamp set is one that people who love to color would be really drawn to because there's a lot of that open imagery. There's no stamps to color in the images, but I'm showing here that you don't always have to color those images. If you're not confident in your coloring or you're short on time, you need to get some cards out, this is a beautiful way to add color to your project. You could use any color combination you really particularly like, and not have to worry about the fact that the flowers or the image isn't colored in. So that's pretty exciting. It just gives a bit of versatility to your crafting. So I've prepped a basic white thick cardstock card base, and I always like to use the bone folder to score, not to score, to burnish the fold because it just makes it sit flatter. And there I'm going to adhere the card front to our card base, and it creates this beautiful white border. Now I'm going to bring in my multi-purpose liquid glue, but it's looking a little different to what you perhaps are familiar with. When I finish a glue and I feel as if I can't get any more out, I stand it up for a while on the big base, and then I take off the label so that I know that this one is finished. And I cut it open, as you see, and you can probably see from the shot that there is still so much glue in there. And I hate that that could be wasted by throwing out. So I've got this dedicated glue brush, and I just pick up glue with the brush and use that. So the glue will last in that open, well, in a container, like I've got there, for a while, about a week before it starts drying out. So if you know that you're going to be making quite a few cards, like Christmas is coming up, and I find myself making a lot more cards during the Christmas season, this is a great time to be cutting open your glues. It just, I don't know, it feels that I'm getting my full money's worth for that little glue. And it still has that wiggle room like it does when you stick it, oh, use the glue regularly. Um, and it just, you'll be surprised how many projects you can get out of that base of glue. And that, I used to be throwing that out, and I hate that I was throwing that out. So now I'm going to use quite a few dimensionals. Let me know, what do you think? Was that too many dimensionals? Probably went slightly overboard, but I just really didn't want this bit to sink down. And it was close to this point in the video that I read comments saying that they were having trouble with sound, which is not cool. But anyway, here we are. Before the video, die cut some of the sprigs from the dies, the coordinating dies that are called, I'm just looking it up, the framed florets dies. And I thought it would be fun to use them in behind the sentiment. So I rearranged the position, and here you can see my little, what was it, closed caption, my own manual closed captioning, apologizing for the lack of sound. So I'm just using a glue dot, one on each, to adhere those leafy details onto the card base. So I'm sticking them onto the card front, and then I'll stick down the sentiment over the top. So I've positioned the glue dot kind of in the middle of that sprig because the ends will be kind of fastened by that sentiment, and I guess maybe that's why I used so many dimensionals, just to have that bit more extra surface area, knowing that I'm putting something behind. I am so pleased with how this has turned out. I as I'm recording this voiceover, I'm thinking there could have been a lot more editing done, but this is my first time ever voiceovering a video, so thank you so much for your patience. Now I've just taken that strip that I trimmed off earlier from the card front, and I'm going to add that to the card insert. Even though I'm using a basic white card base, I still like to put a bit of an insert inside, simply because I find that my projects get top heavy, or lid heavy, I guess you could say, and by adding that card insert, it just gives a bit more balance to the project, and that way if any of my recipients want to display the card, they can stand it up and it won't kind of falter, because I've also got that layer on the inside. So now I'm going to stick that in. I definitely could have edited more. You don't realize how much is extra, because during a live I'm talking and creating, so I don't realize that I don't really need these bits, but I guess a live video is different than a pre-recorded video. I will be learning from this. I was worried that I didn't have enough time for all my voiceover and everything I wanted to share with you all regarding this project. So now, no card to me is complete without decorating the inside as well as the envelope. As card makers, I think we have this opportunity to create coordinating items and create beauty in the envelope as well. And so for this one, I've decided to do the same ink blending as I did on the front of the card onto the card envelope. So I've slipped that small piece of grid paper underneath the envelope flap and using the big grid paper on my table as well, and blending that across just for that extra fun, really. You certainly don't have to do this, but I don't know, blending's quite fun, so I enjoy adding this on as well. And now I'm also going to stamp the same floral image. Again, something you could skip if you didn't want to. It's really a personal, optional preference. So I stamped the first one with the envelope flap closed, and now I'm opening it up so that I'm not stamping on the back of the envelope, only onto the envelope flap, and kind of creating or repeating that semi-stamped section, not covering the entire of the envelope, just like I did on the card front. I really love having the envelope somehow coordinate with my project. Something about coordination. And I always used to love getting stationery sets because they coordinated. And I'll add some of that ink splatter as well to the envelope flap, just because it's also pretty fun to do. That's my logic sometimes. Just, it's fun to do and I want to do some more, and I don't want to make a second card at this point in time. We're almost at the end. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I do want to add one more thing to the project, just because I think it'll just take it to that little bit of a next level, and that is by adding some of the iridescent basic jewels. I've got to say, these are my absolute favorite jewels at the moment. I am using them quite frequently, and I'm surprised how big, how long the pack lasts, despite myself using them quite a lot. This is my second pack that I've started, and these have been around since January. So I've got to say they're pretty good value. So I've added 3 in a little triangle formation down the bottom, and I'm adding 2 up, diagonal kind of across from the sentiment up. And that is the project. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.